Welcome to Women in the Know, where we discuss everything from politics and policy to relationships and marketing. We take the things that we have learned through our experiences and through our interviews and share them with you, the viewer, so that hopefully we can all learn a thing or two about life. So today's topic, Rebecca, comes from our conversation with Erica Garza from Yum and Pizza Hut. And we've talked to her several times, aside from this interview that you're watching today. But in some of our other conversations, she talked about grit versus pedigree and the expectation of having a certain pedigree of education or wealth or experience. But the people who have grit, which is something that you and I like to talk about, and we have talked extensively about on the show, how she would almost rather have someone with those qualities than someone. And she talked about the expectation. You expect someone with a pedigree, with an education, with access, with money, with basically privilege, to succeed. That's an expectation of the next step for them. But somebody with grit who has it in them to create that success is something that she values very highly. So do you think that is a common thing that people in business, especially in positions like hers, look for? Or do you think she's a unicorn?
I think she's a unicorn. I really do. And that's what makes her such a wonderful visionary. Because I think if you go out to find a job, they're looking at a resume and what schools you went to and what volunteer work you did. They are looking for pedigree. She called it pedigree, which I thought was a really cool term for it. And the truth is, what she's looking for is those softer attributes, the grit, the tenacity, the ability to stay committed, the ability to take initiative, the ability to overcome obstacles. And she has found that minority groups and immigrants and women seem to have this grit that then equates to business success. And maybe they have more grit than those folks who have pedigree because they've had to work harder or overcome things or attempt things that maybe someone who's had greater privilege or greater pedigree hasn't had that same reason to fight and push themselves to get to a certain level of success. So I thought it was brilliant how she described this pedigree versus grit, and she would always choose grit, and she loves finding people and giving them an opportunity as long as they show these other attributes. And of course, she's never going to compromise the integrity of Pizza Hut or Yum Brands and the criteria that they're looking for. But she is clear that with this grit, this person she's going to open some doors for them. She's going to give them some opportunities. And I think it's brilliant.
Well, it is. And as she said, you never know, like, don't take people for granted. You don't know their experience. You don't know. She talked about 7-Eleven, where you had a lot of immigrants, but in their countries, they had the status or they had the education or they had the clout, but it hasn't transferred to the US in terms of our educational requirements or experience or the language barrier. Sometimes, that's a huge barrier to entry in a lot of things if you can't speak the language that well. And she talked about getting to know those people and recognizing that in their countries, they were completely in a different space from where they are now, just by virtue of the fact that they're immigrants here. So taking those strengths, and you can still have that education. You can be an educated woman and still have to fight harder to get your foot in the door. Or you can be a brilliant person without the degree and not get your foot in the door because it's not this piece of paper. Right. So allowing for the opportunity for people wherever they come from to show who they are on the inside, and to prove themselves on merit, I think is
imagine that
to her. Yeah, imagine that, right?
Imagine that she's at a place where it's we're not just giving out trophies because you have a certain background or because you show up, but it is based on merit, based on your tenacity and your grit and your willingness to work hard and to make the commitment and do those things. So,
and to a degree, your potential,
Yeah, exactly.
How many
I'm
people
excited.
are filled with potential that we don't tap because of these barriers that we all put up?
And she talked about, not judging a book by its cover, because we don't know people's history and we don't know everything about them. And to give people a fighting chance, a reason to be heard, and a reason to, open some doors for them. And she talks about her own experience where, others have mentored her or given her opportunity because they saw potential, even though she herself is what she called a double minority. And so I
Right.
thought that was kind of right. And somebody gave her a chance, and she's
Mhm.
turning around and doing similar for others. I want this to catch on, Elizabeth.
I
I want this to
know.
catch on.
Well,
I want all franchisors to embrace this kind of initiative and this philosophy of thinking, because I think there's a whole lot of potential franchisees, and women in particular, who have incredible potential if we just give them a chance.
I agree. And with a brand like Yum, I think there's a chance that could catch on, and with her getting out there and being vocal,
Yeah,
really admire her because as a double minority in a big brand, she has a voice
she has
that
a
they
voice.
have embraced, and she has embraced her role. It's a really great example of when you stick to what you believe in and you stand up for it, even when it might be scary or risky. When she first introduced some of these ideas and visions, I'm sure she was a little nervous about how it would be received. And to be embraced the way that she has and get that messaging out the way that she is, that's how things do catch on.
Go girl. That's all I can
Yeah,
say. Go girl. And let's follow her lead. All right.
absolutely. We're going to help her as much as we can for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I'm definitely going to keep a close eye on Erica Garza and what Young Brands are up to. But until next week, when we solve other big questions, we'll see you soon next week with another wonderful Women in the Know conversation.